Alright, here we are on to part 2 of the Tagger tutorial. So, in this part, hopefully it should be kind of brief. We're just going to be talking about descriptors and meta descriptors, or I suppose more appropriately, meta descriptors and infra descriptors. Those are kind of integral to how descriptors in Tagger work, so it's kind of important to understand that. You can not really bother with it at all and still have a pretty competent tagger, I think. But it just it helps to keep things maybe organized and stuff. So here what I'll do is you'll get to see my personal database, so that's a rare privilege. But I'll show you my tag structure that I have, my descriptor structure, and that might help you understand a little bit about what exactly meta and infra descriptors are. So here we've got my database. We've got a pretty full meta tree, a couple things in the unrelated tree and stuff like that. We're going to be focusing on this widget down here. I don't really think we're going to be looking at any images or anything like that. So, like I said in part 1, there are 3 kind of important pieces of data for Tagger. There are files you primarily interact with up here, and then there are these descriptors down here, which are the second part. So the descriptors are just a piece of text that you use to tag a file with, and they're separate from a tag object. A tag, up here that you might see up here, is really just a pointer to one of these. So you can use a descriptor an infinite number of times. You can use it for however many different images you want to use. You could use it multiple times on a single image if you want, though that's kind of useless. But a descriptor is the actual text that a tag is made of. And then what this widget is here, as you can see, it's got this little draggable part here. It has this unrelated thing up here, and then it starts by default in this meta thing up here. So we've got this 2-part widget, and what this helps to visualize a relationship between meta and infra descriptors. So you can just think of a descriptor as being either meta or infra or neither. So a meta descriptor is one that has many descriptors that are related to it, and a infra descriptor is one that has one descriptor that it's related to. So you can see there that it's kind of like I don't know, one to many or one-to-one relationship for either one. So really just think of meta descriptors as like a folder, and infra descriptors like a content of that folder. So here, I'll just get into it with the UI, and it'll be easier than me just like trying to talk about it like an idiot. So all of these descriptors are colored blue because these are all meta descriptors, so that means that they're all related to other descriptors in some way. So we can click on one of these, so we'll just click on character. So if we click on that, it'll open up character just like a folder, right? And so just like a folder, we have a collection of folders and files here. So we have all of these other ones that are also blue, which lets us know that they're all meta descriptors. The fact that this is highlighted is a bug. I don't know why it's like that, but just ignore that for now. And then we have these black ones. So this lets us know that these are neither, or rather these are infra to character, but they don't have any descriptors that are infra to them, right? So they don't contain anything. They're just like files, kind of in a way. So we can also drill down further. So we can go into these, which also have their own meta descriptors, right? So we can go into cool, and then now we've got all these guys in here. We can go up a level. So you can see the actual, like descriptor kind of hierarchy is really simple. It's just like a file system, in a way. So it's really simple. So we just have all the characters that belong to whatever given show. We've got some Kobayashi characters here, so we've got all the characters in that show here. We've got our Idolmaster ones are further grouped up because there's so many who I just frequently forget the names of. Not like it really matters all that much, like you know. But got that. That's kind of mostly it as far as the structure goes. You can have You can have meta descriptors in this unrelated tree. It's not all that common, but you could. But the way that you create these relationships is really simple in Tagger. You just drag and drop stuff. So like say if I wanted to add this ribbon bow descriptor to the attire tag, I can just take this and drag it, and we see that blue highlight, which lets us know that there's an action that happens when we drop it. Alright, so I drop it in there, and then we can see it gets added right there. So what we did now is we created a relationship where ribbon bow is infra to the attire tag. And we'll get into that probably when we start talking about the query language more, about what the significance of that relationship is. But it's kind of twofold in that it helps you to query things, and it also, just in this widget, helps you to keep your descriptors organized so you don't just have one kind of big monolithic list of descriptors. So it helps with a couple of different things. So if we want to unrelate it, we can drag it back over here. We can do that. This unrelated descriptor is actually, like I talked about in the last video, the same as this one. So this is the exact same view here, right? So I actually don't know what would happen. I don't think anything happens, right? Probably not a good idea to keep doing this, but you probably could, and I don't think anything would happen. You can just keep dragging these back and forth, it doesn't matter. But all of our unrelated descriptors are just kept in this hash unrelated hash thing, which this, I think, in the Tagger backend is called an immutable descriptor, because it's bookended by these hash signs, these, I guess, pound signs, I guess. And that just means that they're important. And so like you can create your own immutable tag, just by bookending it with hash marks. I won't do that, because you can't delete immutable descriptors unless you just open up the database in SQLite and do that. So it's kind of a pain, but like as you can see, there's this versions one which I've added myself. It just has a couple of tags in it just to help me keep things organized. So you can make your own immutable tags, and you can also put these wherever you want. If I want to put versions in here, I can do that if I want to. It doesn't really matter. But all new tags that you make, like we'll just do glizzy. How's that? All new tags that you make get added by default to this unrelated descriptor. So they just by default have no relations, right? Which they technically do have a relation. They're related to unrelated, but that's neither here nor there. And then since those get added to this widget, we can then go and kind of just like, we can find whatever we want. So we'll go ahead and we'll just make our zoomer tag. So we want to make this tag, put it there. And then say if we want to make that a meta descriptor to glizzy, then we just click on that, and then we can just drop glizzy in there like that. And then bam, now we've got our zoomer tag with glizzy in it, right? So it's perfect. And then one thing that you can do with these is you can also edit them. So just like last video, we went over how to edit files with this edit button. It's the same thing with descriptors. So you can also use this edit button to edit those. So you with glizzy, if you were perceptive, you might have noticed that I did this with it's not capitalized, right? So I prefer to have my descriptors capitalized just because it looks a little bit neater to me. So if I want to rename that, I just click on this edit button, and it does the same kind of thing with files where it brings up text fields for every descriptor. So say I just want to rename that with a capital G, right? Do that and press enter, and it's updated just like that. And this will propagate across all your tags. So if you have like a million images tagged with glizzy somewhere, and you rename it to no cap like that, that'll propagate the tag through all of your images. So that tag is renamed on all the images. So you don't have to worry about breaking any sort of compatibility or things like that, right? So it's really important that be called glizzy, so I'm going to change it back. You can also delete them like this, so you can delete individual tags. That just deletes glizzy because, maybe that's kind of ugly. Maybe that offends your sensibilities if you're Onion or something, right? So we'll go ahead and just put that back. These also, if you delete a meta tag, I think it should delete all the tags that are infra to it. Okay, it doesn't. So it deletes the meta tag, and then any tags that are infer to it, it'll just throw back an unrelated. So actually, that's better to do it that way, but we'll delete that one too. So that's the tutorial, really, on how to create descriptor relationships. So um, really a pretty key concept in keeping your descriptors, organized. And when we get to the query language, um, if we get to it, I guess, you'll see how useful of a concept having meta descriptors really is. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's really important to the way that I query for my files, and it's really useful for me. So I would highly recommend getting into the practice, if you're using Tagger at all. I don't really know. I would recommend getting into the practice of trying to create some kind of hierarchy like this to organize your descriptors, because it does help you make some pretty specific queries. It's helpful in that regard. So yeah, that's the end of part 2.